when I want to go take a group class, I want to check out. Like, I do not want to think about what I'm doing. I want to just like go, turn my brain off. I want somebody else to tell me what to do and get like a great workout.
Taryn Brooks is a lead instructor at Barry's Boot Camp.
She's a Nike trainer.
A former University of Texas cheerleader and former gymnast.
Group fitness.
Working out together.
Building community.
Somebody finished 25 classes in like 3 days.
Huh?
Yeah. You decide what gets your time, what gets your energy, and what gets your attention. And by making those choices, you're creating the reality around you.
Group fitness studios, aren't they just all covered in secondhand sweat? Taryn,
Hi.
welcome to Slay.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Taryn, what's your background?
Ooh, like, where do you want me to begin? Like, background, or just kind of like
Give me your sporting background.
my sporting background? I've always been super involved in sports, like from a young age, you know, like constantly on sports teams. I was like the only girl on the boys' teams, like growing up, but I was a gymnast mostly. So, like, when I was really young, I did all of the sports. And then I was really good at gymnastics. So I got really involved with that. And I was doing like 7 hours a day in the gym. So I would like wake up at 5 a.m., go before school. This was like in elementary school too.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like intense. You know, I'd get up at like 5, go to the gym, work out. During recess, I would be like doing my homework because then I would go back to the gym at night for like another 5 hours. So it was like 7-hour days, like intense. And by the time I was like, I think I was in the 6th grade. You know, when you're starting to like be really social and there's like parties and like boys and all the things. And I was like, I want a life. Like, it was like at the point where they were like, okay, we want you to quit going to regular school and like come do like homeschool at the gym. And like that was going to be it. And I was just like, I don't think this is for me. So I quit. And then I kind of did I played volleyball and I did track in high school and I was a
Love that.
cheerleader. Yes, your sport. And then when I went to college, I cheered. So I cheered at the University of Texas for 2 years. And
Whoop,
that was, yes, hook 'em horns. That was so amazing. But yeah, always have been super, super active. It's kind of always been like my home base is just like movement.
And what about today?
Today, I do a lot of different things. I mean, I love to strength train. That's like the older I've gotten, the best like I feel is when I strength train. So that's kind of my number one. I go for runs. I don't love running. We've talked about this before.
Yes.
Like I love to sprint. Distance, it's not for me. I make myself do it because it like needs to be for me, but it's not like, you know, I don't dream of running marathons. Like I don't.
I'm with you on that one, honey.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to like knock out some sprints and like feel great. So I like to do that.
So how did you get involved with Barry's Boot Camp?
So I was a client at Barry's, and when I first moved to LA, I was a TV host, and I did that kind of through my 20s. And I was sort of in this transitional time in my life, and I was working a job that I really didn't love. And a friend of mine at the time was in charge of kind of like bringing in all of the new instructors. And he was like, Taryn, I think you're going to really like this. And I was really kind of resistant to it, to be honest. I was like, I don't know. And I finally was like, okay, I'm gonna do this while I figure things out. It was always meant to be kind of like a placeholder. I don't think I felt like I could make a career out of it, and I just didn't know.
Why
you know?
not?
I think I just didn't have enough information. You know, I think in my head it felt like, oh, that's just like a fun thing that you do for a minute, you know, and then you keep it moving. And I really didn't understand, you know, the full complexity of like what I was getting into. It was just sort of like, yeah, let's just do this for a second. And then I realized how much I love it, you know, like I love teaching, and it makes so much sense now to me that this is what I do for a living, because movement has always been like my home base and where I feel like grounded and good, and like for my mental health. And so to be able to like provide that experience for people every single day is like such a gift.
Yes, it is. So what's a group fitness instructor qualified to do exactly?
A group fitness instructor, it's so interesting because obviously you have to be knowledgeable and know what you're doing. You're creating workouts for people daily. So like you need to know what you're talking about. But I also think with group, it's so much more about like providing an experience for people. And like, a lot of people don't love to work out. So like, how can I create an environment where this feels like fun to do? It's like there's so much energy involved in it, I would say. Like you're like an energy curator.
What's the hardest thing about being a group fitness instructor?
I think the hardest thing, and now that I've been doing it for so long, it doesn't even feel challenging. But I think initially it's like I teach really big groups. So it's like a sold out class is like 59 people. So I
Mm.
think it's just like managing that level. Like I'm responsible for making sure everybody is safe and feels comfortable and confident and all those things. So I think it's just like the confidence to manage that many people in a space. And also what I'm doing is like I'm queuing two groups at the same time. So there's like a lot of like talking and stuff. And so keeping the environment like calm through what could otherwise feel like chaotic, I
And
think.
how many classes are you typically teaching each day?
A day. Now I've cut back. I was teaching like 4 a day, like 15 a week.
Wow.
Now I'm at 12, which is like that feels manageable. It's such a big energy exchange. So like I think for a lot of people, they're like, Taryn, you're teaching 3 classes a day. That's 3 hours a day. And I'm like, I get that. And I know in theory, most people are working longer than 3 hours in a day, but it's just like, it's so much energy. I feel like anybody that's in fitness is like, yes, like you understand that,
Mm.
but
And
it can be,
how
yeah.
does that affect you, that energy exchange? You're working with like, up to 60 people in a class, up to 4 of those a day.
Yeah.
What does that feel like? Does that take a toll on you?
I think it does. Like you have to be, and I think everybody needs to have this awareness. I feel like as humans, and especially as women, we just like give, give, give. Like we're constantly putting everybody in front of ourselves to like give our energy and make everybody
Mm.
else feel good and oftentimes neglecting like our own
Mhm.
energy and our own needs. And so I think I've really had to navigate like finding that balance because I always want to like show up 100%. Like I never want to like show up and teach a class where I'm giving them like 10%. Like I
Mm.
want to like give my all. And so in order to do that, I have to like do things that fill me back up so that I can like have that baseline to show up, you know?
What are the type of things that you do to fill yourself up?
I literally will go on a walk every single day or a run. I have to go be by the beach. I live in Venice, the water, like
Are you going long distance running or are you running fast?
it depends. I mean, I'm not
I'm
going.
figuring out whether I can come with you.
Oh my God, please. I go so slow. It's like a cruise. The farthest I go is usually like 6 miles. Like I'll do like a
Okay.
you can
I'm out.
what's the farthest that you run when you're like going for
About
distance?
600 meters.
Okay, well, you'll come down and we can just run some sprints.
I love that.
We'll just do some sprints.
Now, going back to your classes, what's the ratio of like men to women in your classes? Does it normally skew in one direction?
It's pretty even, actually. I would say it's pretty 50-50. It depends on the day. Like if it's like a booty day, I would say it's more of the girlies.
More the guys.
No, but they should. I feel like the men don't show up on leg day. Like
Oh,
like
doesn't surprise me at all.
what are you doing? I
Does
don't
not
want
surprise
like
me.
no, like let's work on the legs, babe. What's happening?
Why are they avoiding legs?
It's literally like the number one thing. Like guys are always like, I just don't like to do my legs. And I'm like, I can tell.
Why are they avoiding legs?
I
I don't
know.
understand.
I truly will never understand.
Do you think that they just value upper body, chest, back
I
way
think,
more?
yeah, like aesthetically, like they're just like, oh, this looks good. And like, honestly, legs are harder.
I've got a theory.
Yeah, what
If
is
you
it?
think about a bar, think about how high the bar is, you're really not seeing that much of a guy when you go to a bar. Like you're really just seeing the top half, if you know what I mean. If
Yes.
he's like on the bar, you're
Yeah.
really never seeing anything below the bar height.
No. They're
That's
like,
my
I'm just going to
theory.
go in on the arms and like, that's all they're going to see.
Double down.
It's deceptive. That's what it is.
It's manipulative. What are the benefits of group fitness?
I think there's so many benefits to group fitness. I think if you are somebody who maybe like, for me, when I want to go take a group class, I want to check out.
Mm.
Like, I do not want to think about what I'm doing. I want to just like go, turn my brain off. I want somebody else to tell me what to do and get like a great workout.
Mm.
And I think there's so much to that. Like when you go to the gym and you're by yourself, like you're training yourself unless you have a personal trainer or whatever it is. Like you're having to kind of like make decisions and like still be on. And so when you can go to a group class with an instructor that you really like and trust, you can just fully like let go. And I think there's something really amazing about that. But
Mm.
also it's like it gives you community,
Hmm.
which is as humans, like we crave and need. And I think that's like another really beautiful part about group fitness is the community that it kind of brings.
Do you think that's why people keep coming back?
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Or is there anything else that they come back for?
I think once you find something that you like and like an instructor or somebody that you resonate with, there's like a comfort in that. And so I think obviously the workout is a part of it. You have to enjoy the workout and like what's happening. But like I think there is something that is just comforting about like being in a room where you feel safe and you feel like you're kind of being able to like move through stuff. I think that's why people continue to come back is like that resonance that happens.
So when you talk about community, do you find that you have the same audience in the same class week on week?
It's a lot of the
Like,
same people, yeah.
do they kind of high five each other? Do they know each other's names? Like, what's the vibe in
A
there?
lot of them. So there are people that are like full berries groupies, like they will be there all the time. They know everybody, like they're taking multiple classes a day.
What?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How many?
How many
What's the
people?
craziest thing? Like, how many is like too many? Like, when you heard someone was taking this many classes, what made your jaw drop?
Oh my gosh. They do a lot of like frequency challenges and stuff like that. And somebody finished 20, I think 25 classes in like 3 days.
Huh?
Yeah. It's wild. I'm like, no, 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 you can't do that.
Have you seen that person and are they still alive?
Yeah, they're good. They're like trucking along. I'm like, no, but mentally, are you okay?
Should we do a wellness check?
Yeah, like let's like dive into this a little bit.
So, Taryn, you talked about like preparing for classes and wanting to be like 100%, but how do you design a class for people who are performing at so many different levels?
That's a really good question. I think also too, like the pacing of a berries class, it's like it's very, like we're moving. And so I think I like to try to simplify things or make things like where people can modify them. I give options a lot for my people that are advanced. I'm like, okay, my advanced, I want you to hit this. And if you're not as advanced, just like slow it down and this is the modification. So I think like being able to formulate a class that allows people to go harder if they want to, but also if it's their first time and they're like, whoa,
Hmm.
this is a lot, they can kind of like pull it back a little bit.
I love that. Now, what is the different roles that you play as a group fitness instructor in one of these environments? Like, what are all of the different hats that you have to wear?
I think obviously first and foremost, like I want people to have a good workout and a hard workout. Like for me, I hate when I go take a class and I'm like, that was good, but like I feel like I need to go do another workout now. Like I never want that to occur. So really curating a workout that is really clean and good and balanced, I
Hmm.
think is so important. But I'm also a DJ.
Oh,
I mean, let me tell you what.
go on.
I am on SoundCloud finding remixes. Like music is such a huge part of the experience. And I feel like I genuinely sometimes I'm like, I know way more about this than I should at this point. But like, yeah, like mixing stuff and like cutting it so that it flows into the next song. And like I genuinely feel like a DJ sometimes.
Okay, DJ Taryn, where are we finding like your
DJ
handle? Where can we get these deep cuts?
That's the thing. That's the thing that's so upsetting is like I will spend so long making these playlists and people are like, "Can I get your playlist?" And I'm like, "I wish I could give this playlist to all of you
What
because
do
I
you
spent so long making it." But because I'm literally like I'm giving my computer viruses because I'm ripping music from like SoundCloud, like it's Napster circa like 2000, like ripping music and it won't let me share any of them. So if anybody
Oh,
knows how to do that,
so
please
the
let
only
me
way
know.
really is to just book you in
Yeah, the
person.
only way to catch my DJ set is to book my berries class.
What do you think the difference is between working out alone and working out in community?
I think there's a time and place for both things, you know? I think sometimes I'll go through periods where I'm like, I just kinda wanna do my own thing and, like, check out, and other times I need the accountability of the group,
Hmm.
and I think that's why group fitness can be so fun, is that it pushes you. Like, especially the environment that Barry's is, like, I'm so competitive. So, like, if I'm in there and I'll tell myself, like, I'm gonna, like, really just coast today, like, I'm gonna pull back, and then I'll be next to somebody and they are not coasting, like, there is no way that I'm gonna coast anymore. Like, I'm going to, like, push myself. And so that, I think, is such a great, beautiful element of it because you really have to up your game.
Do you always check out someone else's like speedometer? Because I think I'm that person.
I really, like, wanna tell you that I'm not that person, but, like, I unfortunately am, and I do fear that that is, like, a very annoying kind of person that we are, but it's, like, that competitive nature where you're like, "What are they at? Am I in the realm? Like, am I on point, or do I need to kick it up a gear?"
Yeah,
And
I'm just
so
like figuring out, are we warming up here? Is this the main session? I'm thinking, has this person got more in the can? I'm looking at their breathing rate. I'm really taking it all in. I'm like, who's going to last till the end here?
you're
Like,
like, "Hey, you and me, foot race outside after class."
sometimes I'll just run next to them really, really fast for like 4 minutes and then I'll go and do my session as if it's the warm up. Savage.
That's
What's at
amazing.
what's at stake for all those people out there who aren't yet taking part in group fitness? Like, what are they losing out on?
I think I think you really have to find the workout that resonates for you. You know what I mean? I think everybody is different. And there's so much out there where it's like, this is what you need to be doing. This, and people are like, there's one set thing. And there's just not. Like, anybody that's saying that to you is trying to sell something to you. I
Mm,
think at the end of the day, baseline, we just want to move and we want to feel good and we
mm,
want to be healthy and
mm,
take care of ourselves and our bodies and our minds. And so, whatever that looks like for you, do it. If that's a group fitness class, amazing. If like the motivation and like you not having to think is like what works for you, great. If you don't like a group class, I know a lot of people that are like, this is not for me. Go to the gym, do your own thing. Like, just find whatever that is for you and do it. I think that's kind of my go-to on that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Taryn, what have you learned about people from the perspective of coaching group fitness?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I've learned how resilient people can be in a multitude of ways. I think like something as simple as just showing up, like making the decision to show up every day or a couple times a week for themselves. I think that is so beautiful and cool. But I also know so many people that, will show up and a year into coming to my classes or 6 months, like, they'll send me a message and just be like, "Hey, I want you to know that, I've been going through a really difficult time. Like, I've been going through a breakup or I lost a parent or, all of these, like, really challenging things that we have to deal with as human beings." And, like, the fact that people can continue to show up in a time that, it's really easy to, like, just break down, I think. And so, like, the humanity in it all is, like, really beautiful, and it's given me this perspective of, like, having so much more empathy and grace for people because I think I see so many people on a day-to-day basis and, like, everybody is going through something, you know? And so,
Mm,
like, to be able to create an environment to hold space for people to kinda, like, deal with that, like, is so cool to me,
mm.
and I think it's just I don't know, I think we know that, right? Like, as humans, we know everybody's going through something, but when you have, like, these, like, real tangible examples all the time, it's I don't know, there's something that is really beautiful about that.
And how do you personally create that safe space when people walk into the red room?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I one of the reasons I love movement and working out is because, like, I have struggled with depression and anxiety and all of these things, and I know everybody has, like, gone through hard times, like, that is just kind of, the nature of this experience that we're all experiencing, but movement has always kind of helped me, like, come back down and feel normal or good or better when I really don't. And so that has always been at the forefront for me, like, from the moment I started this, like, I don't take that lightly. And I really want to like give people an hour where they can like get out of their head because I know they're going through a lot. And like, a lot of them are moms or they're business owners or whatever it is. I mean, life is hard. Like
Mm.
it's so hard. And so to like really create a room where people feel like calm, I think I really try to create an environment that's calm and encourage people to like just like let go of whatever
Mhm.
they're holding on to emotionally because I think movement is such an energetic release and it's a way to get some of that like out of your body.
Mhm.
And so like I really tap into that when I'm teaching.
Is there such a thing as too much? We talked about the person who did 25 sessions in 3
Yeah.
days. Like,
Yes.
what would you say is like the perfect amount, to be doing? Like, amount of classes a week, for example?
I think it totally, again, like depends on the person and like what feels good to them. Like, I certainly don't think anyone should be taking 25 classes in the span of 3 days. Like,
Why not?
that's insane, especially not a berries class because it's so intense. But, like for some people, if you're really like young and it feels good on your body to do this every single day, cool. But like for me now, I like to do like a hit workout like that intense, maybe like twice a week. And then the other days I'm doing my strength training, which is heavy, but like slower.
Mhm.
I'm blending in Pilates. Like I think you have to kind of figure out what feels good to your body. There's no like one set method, you know?
Mhm. What are the most common mistakes that you see from people they don't even have to be beginners in class? Like, what are the most common mistakes you see in class that are happening?
I think people get it can be a chaotic environment, which is why I try to make it like as calming as I can. But I think sometimes people feel like they have to go at 100 the entire time. And like that is impossible. So I think that's the biggest mistake that I see people make is just like feeling like they have to come in at 100 and stay at 100 the whole time. Like let yourself pull it back, like give yourself the recovery so that you can show up again at 100. Like give yourself that space, you know?
What should you definitely not be doing in the red room or in any group class for that matter?
Oh my gosh, my biggest pet peeve is the cell phone. Like
Oh,
that I just think it's so disruptive.
so what's going on? Like, I don't think I've seen anybody with a cell phone, but then it's been a long time since I've done a group fitness class. Like, what's going on in there?
Oh my gosh, the other day, this is actually funny. Like I was like, okay, I mean, it's so loud in there. It is so loud in there. And this girl is walking on the treadmill, like on an incline, and she is she's listening to a voice note on her phone in the middle of class. And I was like, I am not like, I'm not even upset. I'm just like, how are you doing that? Like, how are you even hearing anything on there? But no, like people will be texting. Like, it's just like, I think for me, because I really, really, really want people to disconnect. Like, that is
Mm.
my number one thing that I'm encouraging people to do is to get out of their head and like out of their own bullshit, out of like whatever's going on outside of those doors and to like give them a break from that, whatever it is. And so I think it can be distracting when you're trying to have like this moment for yourself and then the person next to you is like listening to a voice note or like on their phone. It just kind of takes you out of it a little bit.
Mm.
And so I think for me, that's the number one thing you should not do.
Cell phones in bags or in lockers.
Yeah, just don't even bring it in.
What's your advice to someone who wants to start taking classes? Let's
Ju-
say they're just sat at home on the couch right now.
I think just starting. Like, I feel like I've had this conversation so much lately, and that's it. Like, it's really hard to start. And it's hard to do something new because it's scary. And like, when you don't feel like you know the ropes or you feel like maybe you're the outsider, it feels intimidating. And it can be really intimidating, especially fitness when you haven't done anything like that before. But I would say it's never as scary as you think it's going to be. And just to start, like, come in and like, if you do feel scared, like, go introduce yourself to the instructor and like, just be honest about that. And so they know and can kind of like guide you through the process a little bit more and make you feel comfortable. But I think the second you do it, you realize like, oh, I can do this. I think with anything.
Group fitness studios,
Mhm.
aren't they just all covered in secondhand sweat?
Actually, no. Like, I Watch them. They are so thorough with their cleaning. Like between every class, it's like a SWAT team of people coming in and they are cleaning that space from head to toe. I mean, it's pretty impressive. And they do it like with a pretty quick turnaround time, but it is clean. Like I've never been in there and been like, this is gross.
Could you lick a treadmill?
Listen.
No, don't do that.
I mean, no, I don't think I would do that. Probably. I probably wouldn't lick anything. I mean, and also like I always like wash my hands immediately after I'm taking any kind of a class just because there's like a lot of people in there, but it's clean.
I love that.
Yeah.
You talked about your own training methods.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Pilates and strength.
Yeah.
Do you do those side by side? Are you doing them on different days? Like what is your go-to time? How do you spend time disconnecting and reconnecting with fitness?
I love Pilates. I train my private clients with like a lot of Pilates and strength, like kind of like a blend. And so I kind of like to combine them whenever I'm working out. But I also like to just have a day where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and do like a really heavy lift. And I will like kill myself and do a really heavy lift. And I think that feels so good and like have it be like a bit of a slower day. And then I love going and taking a Pilates class when I don't feel like I have as much energy and I really want to move my body still and like feel good. Like I think it's just finding that balance, but ultimately that comes down to like listening to yourself and like really being present in your body and knowing what feels good to you, what doesn't, when it feels good, when it doesn't feel good. I think as women, we have like a whole other set of things to worry about because our hormones are constantly changing. And so you have to pay attention to that. And I think, we've talked about this a lot, but like a lot of people are like claiming there's one set thing and there's just not. Like everybody's different. What feels good to my body might not feel good to your body. And like that's okay. But I think the more you do it, the more aware you are, especially with your body, and you can kind of like adjust accordingly.
What does a heavy lift look like for you? Go-to exercises, rep ranges, weights lifted. Let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, I love like a hip thrust. That's probably my number one.
Love it.
I love
barbell or dumbbell.
I love a barbell if I have access to it. I mean, you can really load them up. I just love them. I love the Smith machine. I'm a big fan of the Smith machine.
What exercises are you doing in there?
I mean, I love like a squat, just like I love like the basics, like a deadlift. Like I just want to like, I don't know, it just feels so nice,
What about upper body?
Upper body, I love to do more dumbbells for my upper body. I don't lift quite as heavy for my upper body.
Why not?
I have a very strong upper body, and I also am somebody who develops muscle like very quickly. I always have. And I think that people say like that's not a real thing. And again, everybody's different, but my body responds quickly to stuff. And so for me, like I want my arms to look toned, but I don't necessarily want to be like, like fully jacked. Whereas my legs, I'm like, let's go. Like, let's load it up.
So like you're the opposite of most guys.
I am the opposite.
You could find the perfect balance here.
Yeah,
somewhere.
exactly.
At some bar in LA is the perfect balance.
Yeah, the way I train my legs and with the way that men train their upper body, it would just be the perfect match,
Do you think there's some sort of crossover there from like gymnastics? Because obviously, gymnastics is such a plyometric form of like physical activity. Typically upper body, you're always kind of stabilizing and doing like lots of isometric work.
So much crossover. And I pull inspiration all the time from conditioning that I did as a child in gymnastics. I think about that often and the way that like muscle memory is. And I mean, to this day, when I was a kid and I was doing gymnastics, I had this Russian coach and we were not allowed to leave the gym to go home after a 7-hour practice.
Wow.
Unless we held a handstand for 1 minute without walking. So just locked in. And so I learned how to do that real quick because I was always like, I want to go home. And so now I can still to this day do that. And it's so crazy how muscle memory is. I think like just from a young age, like doing all body weight work, like I love lifting weights and I'm such a proponent of that. But body weight work is also a fantastic workout. I mean,
Awesome conditioning, isn't it?
I never once lifted a weight when I was a gymnast and I was ripped. I mean, and it was all body weight. Everything we did was body weight conditioning. And so I think there's something really interesting about that too. And like, I think it's cool to be able to draw inspiration from all of those things in training. I mean, when you train, do you do things that you did training in track, or do you kind of have an aversion to that?
I try to.
Yeah.
I try to. But
Yeah.
running over 10 hurdles nowadays doesn't go down too well.
You're like, I'm good. I did that. Thank you.
I definitely, if I find myself, we were talking about this, my husband and I this week, if I find myself getting away from the feeling of athleticism, so for me, that feels very explosive and very
Yeah.
powerful. And if I feel like I'm leaning too hard towards aesthetics like bodybuilding, it feels like it dampens my ability to be explosively powerful and like jump. I always kind of bring it back to some power exercises.
Yeah.
So I'll lean back into exercises that, like you said, are like a place of comfort for me.
Totally.
Like I've been doing some power cleans lately.
Oh,
And that's
nice.
just
I
like,
saw that on your
like,
Instagram.
that to me really makes me feel like myself.
Yeah.
And from an aesthetics perspective, there really isn't, any major benefits other than just like keeping my power up or whatever.
But it feels good to you. And that's kind of it. Like you have to find the things that feel good to you. Like that is the
Absolutely.
secret to all of this.
Yeah.
And I hear you. Like with gymnastics, I was like, my best events were floor and vault. It was like very explosive and powerful and jumps. And I still to this day, like I love that stuff. Like I want to do squat jumps and like all of those things. But also like I don't ever teach a class where we don't do a hollow body hold. Like, and that's my gymnastics. Like we did them all the time. And like, I just think it's so important to like have those basics locked in.
I love that. More hollow body holds, please.
I mean,
And then
all
you
day.
spoke about Pilates as if you use it more of a kind of restorative method.
It depends. I think it depends on the class that I'm taking or what I'm doing. If I'm in there by myself, I'm doing very explosive, non-traditional Pilates. Like,
go on, do tell us more.
Like jumping and all kinds of like crazy things that you would never see in a traditional Pilates class.
And is this
like explosive
that
Pilates
you've developed, or a class that you're taking, or a coach that you meet
It's
with?
inspiration that I've like drawn from things that I've done like through gymnastics, but then also like things that are traditional movements that I'll see. And then I'm like, ooh, that would be cool if it was like this. So it's definitely like my own little version of of chaos, I would say. But I also think I mean I love to take a traditional class when I want to just kind of like slow down a little bit. I think that feels also fantastic. It just depends on kind of where I'm at and what I'm seeking at that time.
What do you think the biggest threat is, Taryn, to physical activity in 2025 when it comes to women taking part, getting involved?
That's such a great question. I think people really take everything so literally. Like I feel like there's so many trends and exercises and people really believe whatever is trendy to be the truth. And I think that's not always the case. I think there are a million different ways you can move your body. And I think it's very limiting to just say that this one thing is the thing, right? Like, I think people just need to continue to be open-minded and do things and try new things to find what you like. Because I think finding something that you love is what's going to keep you coming back, but also like bringing in different elements. I think somebody that loves to spin, that's great. But you also need to bring in that weight training because that's what's going to help you as you age. So I think it's, finding that balance and also being a little bit more open-minded. I think people are kind of like, I don't know.
Where do you think that's coming from? That kind of like single-minded, being kind of ushered into one particular fad?
I think there's so much we have so much access to information these days, and so I think that certain things kind of become trendy, and people hear one person say something, and then everybody, maybe even if it's subconsciously, they pick that up and they run with it,
Mhm.
and then that's kind of being pushed around the internet as though it's truth and the only thing that can be true. And maybe it is true. Maybe, this one thing works for you, but it doesn't make the other things bad or wrong. I think you just kind of have to be a bit more open-minded and maybe do a bit more research on what you're hearing or, just try for yourself. I think that's the best way to kind of like understand anything is to go and do it and see how you feel and how it affects your body because again we're all different,
Mm.
there's not one formula. I keep saying that, but I really believe that, and I think so often people are just relying on this singular formula to like give them everything they need, and there's not one thing,
Mm.
pulling from so many different modalities and different things to kind of feel balanced. So
What was the last myth that you heard about that really kind of got your goat? You're just like, oh, I wish this just wasn't a thing.
we were just talking about this. It's that Pilates gives you like the lean muscles and like, well, I don't lift weights because I don't want to be bulky. And I'm like, babes, we got to get you some weights. Like, I have girlfriends that I'm like, I love you. We need you to start lifting weights because, like, as we age, that is like the number one thing. It's so important. And just because you pick up a weight that's heavier than 10 pounds does not mean you're going to have like this bulging bicep or
Mm.
like it takes work to get that. Like, it's just going to make you strong and like creating lean muscle. You can do that with weights. Like, it doesn't have to just be Pilates. I love Pilates and like I do it weekly, but I'm also lifting heavy weights and I feel balanced in that. So I think, yeah, I don't know. What would you say? What's your biggest pet peeve at the moment?
I think it's interesting that we're still having that same discussion. I
Right.
wonder like where the fear is coming from.
I think it's all I can o I mean, I can speak for myself because I used to be afraid of weights. I really, really was. I did not wanna be bulky. I think as a gymnast, growing up, I was always very muscular, and I was deeply insecure about that because during that time, it was very, like, fashionable to be a waif and to be very thin and not have this, like, muscular athletic build. And so I never lifted a weight. Like I was grabbing a 10 pound, like I was not doing what I'm doing
What
now.
changed?
I think I realized by lifting that by me doing that, it wasn't going to make me like, I don't know. The fear in my head, I don't even know what I thought would happen, but I think I was just trying to attain this body and this aesthetic that is not what I naturally have, and so I think maybe that's it, is I finally, as I've gotten older, have embraced my body, and I'm like, I am so grateful that I'm muscular, and I love that I am strong and athletic, and, like, I think that is just something that comes with age and confidence and just kinda, like, learning to love yourself and whatever that is, if a lot of people are naturally very thin, and that's amazing, like, but you can lift weights and you will still maintain that physique, I think it's, yeah, it's interesting how it shifts and trends shift and what's trendy, to look a certain way, and I don't know, I think we spoke about this recently and how it was just so cool to watch all the track athletes at the Olympics this year because they're all so strong and powerful, but also just, like, so feminine and beautiful and cool and fashionable, and it kind of I don't know, I think you can be all of the things, you can have all of that in one, which I think is amazing.
So, Taryn, you talked about your just briefly about your own kind of journey to body acceptance.
Yeah.
But what would you say to all of the young women out there who, are now growing up with social media, the influence of like Instagram, TikTok? What would you say to the young women out there who are seeing things perhaps that are making them feel more insecure than they perhaps should at their current age?
Yeah. I think about that all the time. I'm so grateful that we didn't grow up during a time where social media was around. Like, I think about that often 'Cause it's hard being that age and comparing yourself, but then having this tool where, like, everybody looks perfect. I mean, you're just presenting this version of you that is this perfect curated version of you. It's not the real version, and so I think I would say when you get into those spirals or you're finding yourself, like, really comparing, I would say just, like, put the phone down and take a beat and, like, go make a little gratitude list, all the things that you're grateful for yourself. I know that that sounds cheesy, but, like, really, like, honing it back in and, like, changing that energy frequency back to that self-love, and also remembering that none of that is real. I mean, it is all like, I post pictures all the time, and I'm like, "Wow, it's a great picture. That angle looks fantastic, and, like, this is my job." But there are other angles where I don't look perfect, and I don't look like I think remembering that it's just an image and it's not a reality, and I think trying to, like, give yourself a little bit of grace, like, I've been a perfectionist my entire life, and it has been so detrimental to me in so many ways, and the older I get, the more I learn to, like, really love and embrace my imperfections, and I
Mm.
think those are the things that make people interesting.
What are the things that you've been tried in the past to perfect?
Oh my gosh, everything.
Go on.
You name it. Everything. I mean, and I think perfectionism can be such a curse because it's paralyzing. When you're trying to show up and be perfect and look perfect and make no mistakes ever, it's impossible. You don't do anything. You don't try anything. You don't take risks because you you fear that you won't be perfect, and guess what? You won't. But, like, that's where the magic lies,
Mm.
is in the messy and in the imperfection. That's where we grow, that's where we learn, and that's so much more interesting, you
How did
know?
you break out of some of those, like, perfectionist tendencies?
It is a daily thing for me where I have to just drop it and be like, "You know what? It's it is what it is, and we're just gonna run with it, and we're gonna figure it out." Like, I'm doing something right now that's requiring me to really drop that in order to create. And I think if you want to advance and you want to get somewhere, you have to throw that out the window. Because if you are just hyper fixated on this perfection, like it's it's impossible. Like you cannot learn, you can't grow, you can't it's impossible. Like, so I think reminding myself, like, yeah, I would love to be perfect, but I'm not. But I'm gonna do my best and show up to the best that I can. But I also like, I wanna make mistakes because
Mm.
then I can learn and
Mhm.
I can be better. That's the only way.
What's your advice to someone else who's struggling with the same thing, who's perhaps been in your shoes and is having a hard time right now?
I think I would say, like, try to give yourself a break, and that's for me, that's always come back to fitness, like, when I'm in my head about all of these things and, like, just so, like, tightly wound up about something, like, really just letting it go. I say this all the time when I'm teaching, I'm like, "You decide what gets your time, what gets your energy, and what gets your attention." And by making those choices, you're creating the reality around you. It's what you're thinking about, it's what you're focusing on. And if you can shift your perspective, you can shift that reality. And I know when I say that a lot, people are like, well, no, I can't. This is the situation I'm in and I can't control it. And I'm like, you can't control the situation, but you can control how you respond to it.
Mm.
And you will free up so much of your energy and your time if you just give yourself a break. Like, just let yourself be and let yourself live and make mistakes and not look perfect and be like, just relax.
Taryn, when are you next taking a break and what's on your gratitude list?
Oh my goodness. Well, I try to take a break as much as I can these days. Like, I'm like, I am going skiing at the end of the month. That's gonna be a nice break with
Where are we off
friends.
to?
We're going to Deer Valley, which will be
Love
amazing. I
it.
know, I'm so excited. I haven't been skiing in years, so I'm very excited about that. And my gratitude so much is on my gratitude list. I do a gratitude list every day.
Wow. What time of the day do you do it? Beginning of the
I like to
day?
do it first thing in the morning.
Love it.
And I really swear by it. I really think that, like, if you wake up and you're feeling upset about something or just kind of like just off, making a list of all the things you're grateful for. And it doesn't even have to be big. Sometimes I'm like, I'm grateful for rain. I'm grateful for the beach. I'm grateful for my coffee. Like, it just fully shifts everything.
Mm.
I love them. I'm like the biggest proponent of a gratitude list.
I absolutely love that. I looked out of the window today, and today's a rainy day here in Los Angeles.
My favorite.
I know, because it just reminds me of London.
Oh, I
And so
bet.
for me, it's like a little bit of London in LA.
Which is so nice. I think I love the rain so much in LA because it's different and it feels so cozy. I'm such an outdoors person. So, like, when it's sunny outside, I feel like I have to be outside doing something at all times.
Mhm.
And when it's raining, I'm like, oh, I can just like be cozy inside and like read a book and not feel like,
Zero FOMO.
yes.
Mhm. I'm with you. Taryn, what did you come to slay?
Ooh, like in this life,
Mhm.
I think I am here to slay and remind people of their importance and their greatness and that they matter and to create space for people. Like that is what fills me up and feels so good to me is like being able to like curate an environment that is inspiring to people and also like reflecting back to people how amazing they are and their potential because I think that gets lost on us so often and we are so mean to ourselves and beat ourselves up and sometimes it's like so important to like really reflect that back to the people that you love because I think we all need that sometimes.
Yes, we do. Taryn, that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you for joining us on
Thank
the
you.
Slay podcast.
Thank you for
What
having
have you
me.
got coming up and how can we find you?
Ooh, I have a lot of fun things coming up that I'm working on. You can find me on Instagram. I sometimes will throw up a TikTok, but not really. I need to like I'm a lurker on TikTok and I want to become a poster,
I
but I
love
feel
that.
like I get overwhelmed, but I'm going to try to become a poster. But my Instagram is Taryn M. Brooks.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us on the Slay
Thank you
podcast.
for having me. It was so fun.
That concludes this episode of Slay. Stay tuned for more empowering discussions on female health, fitness, and life. You can follow me at Louise Hazel on social media, and you can follow Taryn at Taryn Brooks. You can also follow us at Slay Athletic Club, and don't forget to subscribe to the Slay podcast if you haven't done so already on YouTube, and leave us a comment. You can also get fit at home using the Slay app. You can hit the link in my bio and download it now for free from the App Store to join our online community.